Hi, I'm the Reverend Lyn Cox. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And as you've heard, I am a member of the Congregational Life field staff for the Central East region of our Unitarian Universalist Association. And that means that it's my job to help congregations all over the region to be their best, healthiest, most joyful, most loving, most Unitarian Universalist congregations they can be. For the benefit of those listening to a recording or who are blind, I'll share my visual description. I'm a white person with short, dark hair and glasses. I'm wearing a white dress shirt, a green tie, and a green ministerial stole. My background is blurred, and there's a red UUA chalice logo in the upper corner of the screen. Today, I am filled with gratitude for the volunteers and staff of this congregation who made this hybrid visit possible. I'm grateful to our UU ancestors and to the founders of this congregation for creating a movement to bring us together. I'm grateful to the UUs of the future whose lives call us forward and remind us that we are the temporary stewards of this gift of community. And while I'm at it, I'm grateful to the past version of myself for practicing how to record sermons. Do you do that too? Give thanks to your past self? Oh, the me of last week remembered to call in that prescription before I ran out. Thanks, past me. Oh, look, I have clean dishes for my breakfast because I washed them before I went to bed. Thanks, past me. If past me made a mistake or wasn't able to complete a task, I try to extend them some grace. They were going through a hard time. I know how tired they were. And sometimes, if I know I don't have capacity for something in the present moment, I trust my future self to be stronger. And then when I pick up that task later, it's a form of love from my past self that this is something I can do for them. I have learned that framing my habits as kindness to my future self or past self, rather than chores or obligations, invokes my sense of generosity and gratitude. All of those versions of me are connected, even though we don't occupy the same space at the same time. Similarly, all of us are connected with our UU ancestors and with the UUs who have yet to arrive. We may not occupy the same space at the same time, but they are us, we are them, and our thriving is bound up together. We benefit from the legacy of love that was built by our ancestors, and we benefit from being drawn into the future by the calling of those who will inherit the movement from us. We send our love back through time by being good stewards of the gifts that are in our care, and we send our love forward by leaving a legacy that will power new ideas and new expressions of Unitarian Universalism. We're also connected with the larger UU movement in the present, with our interfaith and secular neighbors, with the living planet of which we are a part, and other facets of our interdependent web. For me, one of the most enduring parts of the Universalist tradition that we are the stewards of is the idea that there is no us and them. There aren't some groups of people whose well-being matters and other groups of people whose well-being doesn't matter, right? It's all us. There aren't parts of the planet that can be sacrificed while the rest of the planet stays healthy. Our destiny is bound up together. Love embraces all of us, and it is our calling as Unitarian Universalists to be the hands, feet, and voices of love. When we open our hearts to collective liberation and collective well-being, that generosity is not only a gift that we send out to others, it is a gift to ourselves because we are part of the interdependent web. So to give a few examples, one, when we engage in environmental justice, we're deeply concerned about frontline communities who are hurt first and worst by climate change. And we are also aware that Earth is our favorite planet and that sustainability affects everything and everyone we hold dear, right? There's no us and them. It's all us in that we are affected by what happens to the planet? Your Green Sanctuary team has a lot of suggestions for how members and the congregation as a whole can be in a more generous and reciprocal relationship with the planet. The health of the land and of the people sustains the ways we work and play, the ways we eat, and the ways we find each other in community. Mindfully choosing to act in ways that honor our interdependence can mean shifting resources with a generous heart. When we advocate for peace, it is part of our love for our neighbors all over the world and our wish that all people live in abundance, right? Generosity, we wish all people to live in abundance, and thus we advocate for peace. Dwight Eisenhower, in his Chants for Peace speech in 1953, said, "Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired, signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children." To give a related example, economic justice. That's our goal when we give our time, talent, and resources in legislative advocacy for things like renter protections, the social safety net, and fair wages. And we also know that neighbors caring for one another in the immediate sense goes hand in hand with the systemic work for equity and abundance, right? We need to fix the system that makes people hungry, and also people are hungry right now. Your work with Focus Interfaith Food Pantry is part of building a world where everyone has enough, a world where people can thrive in community together. Our Unitarian Universalist values are all interlocking. They all support each other. I believe you're familiar with the new statement of values in Article 2 of our UUA bylaws. So values justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity with love at the center. And they all work, right? Generosity and justice are intertwined values. Generosity and pluralism are intertwined values. Pluralism being able to be gracious and open-hearted as we live into our diversity. Generosity and equity are intertwined. Equity when we remove the barriers to resources that will let every person have what they need to fully participate in our society. Financial generosity is certainly one aspect of generosity. And also, when we deeply consider generosity as a core value of our faith related to all those other things, we see that practicing this value enriches and enlivens our spiritual lives. Generosity feels good because it reminds us that we're part of systems that are larger than ourselves. Generosity is not simply self-interest, though there are ways that generosity is good for us. Generosity is an acknowledgement of the fundamental spiritual truth of our connectedness. When we give of our time, our talent, and our treasure, we can practice joy and gratitude for the conditions that have led to our ability to do so. When we are generous with extending grace and creativity, we are weaving together the kind of world where we help lift each other up when we fall. As Tandy Rogers said in the reading, to be generous is to say with our lives, love wins. It is true that we can't give everything away all the time because that's not necessarily healthy for the part of the system nearest to us. And it's not always balanced or conducive to the well-being of the beloved with whom we want to be generous to give too much of what we think is needed. Toxic charity is a thing. And also our own capacity matters. It's true that all of us are connected. There's no them whose well-being is unimportant. And it's also true that we can't pour from an empty cup. Please do not interpret my words to mean that we should harm our personal health or our families in the course of giving of our time, talent, and treasure. My strength is your strength, and I want all of us to be strong. When we're feeling some inner tension about generosity, it can be fruitful to reflect on whether this pull is coming from actual capacity or some kind of fear of scarcity or some kind of inkling that there might be a more strategic way to support the health of the whole. Sometimes temporarily conserving resources is part of the larger system. For many of us, after we've eaten a large meal, blood flow increases to the parts of our body that are busy with digestion. And that's a shift in resources that eventually helps every part of our body get what it needs. In the same way, in our communities, sometimes we shift more resources to one part during a crisis or for some important work, and that eventually benefits the health of the whole. As humans in community, we sometimes talk about being one body, connected even across our different perspectives and roles. My hope is that every person in our community is allowed to be in a position to receive when they need to, and that we can keep the energy flowing so that the community as a whole can thrive with no one left behind. For all of our interconnectedness, we do each have individual choices, responsibilities, and goals when it comes to how we make use of the gifts for which we are the stewards. Deciding how to share our caring, our attention, our resources is complex. Talking it over with people you trust can help you align your goals, your values, and your actions. In a community like this one, we can include theological reflection to help us to bring meaning and context to our decision making. Perhaps there are some deep discussions about the philosophy and practice of generosity in your Meaning Matters groups. Perhaps you have already held a study group for a book like Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer or Social Change Now by Deepa Iyer to discuss generosity as a concept that is both personal and spiritual. Some of our strategic choices are about the timeline of resources. We're grateful to our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors of 200 years ago, 40 years ago, and 5 years ago. And we send love forward to future generations of UUs who will carry this tradition forward in 5, 40, and 200 years from now and beyond. Generosity for the annual pledge campaign is a gift for your future selves of next year and a few years beyond that. And maybe there are ways of being generous that are generational for the UUs of 50 and 200 years from now. Let us celebrate the opportunity to practice gratitude and to envision a whole future. In the present, we can be grateful for our interdependence as a Unitarian Universalist movement. This congregation is part of a body of about 1,000 congregations that make up the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. And you're also part of a cluster of about 8 congregations locally that support each other. And I'll be able to attend the cluster gathering in Schenectady next week in person. The health of each congregation impacts the whole. When congregations are in direct relationship with each other, as you are in your cluster and for statewide legislative advocacy, that enhances the health of the whole association. And generosity comes into play here too. Working with other congregations almost always involves some compromise, some giving of our time and talent, and some deep listening with open hearts. It's a worthwhile practice. Your congregation's generosity with the Unitarian Universalist Association Annual Program Fund is also a practice of care for the network of interdependent congregations in our association. For more than 25 years, your congregation, have been an honor congregation, which means that you have paid in full your pledge to the association out of your congregation's budget. Sometimes we call that fair share. I hope you are proud of that record. Certainly, your contribution to the APF is of direct benefit to you. There are services that you have greater access to because of your faithfulness as an honor congregation. And your APF is more than that. By pooling our resources as an association of congregations, we are able to do things like create new adult faith development curricula, support the ministerial search process, and harness the collective power for social justice. And that's not all. Because of your generosity, other UU congregations are able to be supported as they come into being or during a crisis more effectively because of all of the other congregations that contribute to the APF. And if you need help during a difficult time, it is the generosity of other congregations to the APF that make it possible for UUA staff to do what we can to support you. So when a UUA staff person shows up to assist you, that is all of the other congregations of the UUA and their APF contributions coming through that staff member to support you in that time, right? The whole community is showing up for you in that moment. Annual program fund contributions don't just go to some nameless entities out there. The APF is an expression of congregations supporting each other. They are you, you are them. We are an association together. I began this sermon with gratitude, and I would like to end it with gratitude. Thank you for all you do to practice and promote Unitarian Universalist values in the state capitol and beyond. Thank you for being a good neighbor as a UU congregation in your cluster and in the interfaith community, and as an honor congregation in the annual program fund. Thank you for caring for one another in the present, for being good stewards of the gifts you have inherited, and for your vision of the future as a welcoming, joyful congregation that places love at the center. May your future be one of abundance. So be it. Blessed be. Amen.